Hello and welcome to the Midday Brief. To come, Dosu takes parents of 3 children kept indoors for 8 years to a psychologist for checkup. We'll bring you updates on that story. Parties to the ongoing election petition hearing to file their written addresses before the Supreme Court tomorrow. We will be getting some education on what the process entails and what to expect ahead of the day. In the meantime, 4 institutions, including the police service, will appear before the Judgment Death Commission between today and tomorrow. We will also be juxtaposing the state of some of our educational infrastructure against Ghana's middle income status. And my name is Kimini Nyamani Amano. Stay with me. I'll bring you details of these stories and plenty more in a bit. In our first story, the Domestic Violence and Victims Support Unit is sending parents of 3 children who were kept indoors for 8 years to see a clinical psychologist. Now, Joy News' Beatrice Eju, who has been to the house where the children were kept in Medina, said the 3 were kept under serious insanitary conditions away from friends and family since their birth. She said the children shared their space with livestock. The back of the house leading to the 4-bedroom apartments has an animal farm filled with ducks, fowls and sheep. The surroundings of the house is overgrown with weeds. And according to Beatrice, the corridor leading to their room is also filled with a strong stench. Meanwhile, the Madida Dopsu is appealing to the public to help trace the family of the parents of these children. Their mother, Jane Mensah Latte, hails from Simpe in Accra, while the father, Sledge Mensah Latte, is said to hail from Jamestown, also in Accra. Joining us by telephone is ASPR in Opon of Dopsu to find out if the medical checkup on the parents has been successful and, the latest generally on the situation. Hello, ASP.
Hello.
Right. What can you tell us about the situation now?
Thank you very much. As you said earlier, Dopsu is referring the suspects, that is the parents, to a clinical psychologist for assessment and a report to establish really if everything is correct up there. So now that is what we are doing.
Right. And, it hasn't been done?
They have been referred to them, but it was today.
Right.
It was, yes, they were referred to the clinical psychologist today.
Right. Now, we understand that these children have not had any direct contact with other persons for the past 8 years. And the question on the minds of many people is, has this the impact really on the children? We've heard of people who, similar things occur to, and they started behaving differently from the everyday person. What would you say is the demeanor of these children?
It's normal, but they will also be sent to the clinical psychologist to confirm it.
Come again?
I'm saying that their behavior is normal, but however, as investigations goes on, they will also be sent to the clinical psychologist to assess their behavior because it's victim support. As we support the victim, the same way we are supporting the suspect.
What will be normal? What would you describe as normal?
You ask a question in concern their behavior, and I'm saying that their behavior is normal. To me, as a layman person, with no knowledge in counseling, I would say it's normal.
And so where are the children?
They have been given shelter.
They have been given shelter?
Yes, they have been taken away from their parents and given shelter.
And the parents?
The parents are on bail.
They are on bail. Right. We understand that these children have also not been to school before. What is the unit doing to give these children some education?
Thank you very much. The unit is under the Ghana Police Service, and our mandate is to implement the law. And one of our functions is to protect life and property. And in this case, we rescue to protect them. So we are giving the first, that is protection. The next one is to investigate and look out for crimes committed, and then gather evidence and put them before court. So when it comes to the children going back to school, yes, it's not the sole responsibility of DOVSU to decide where and when the children is going to school. We have partners like social welfare and the judiciary. And then at the social welfare, they have a probation officer who may be instructed by a judge to give a report as to the extent of psychological abuse there, the environment that they were living, to collaborate what the police have. And the court will instruct whether the children should be with social welfare for school or a responsible relative of the children will be instructed to take over. That one will come from the court.
Right. Now, from the reports, we also got to know that DOVSU was trying to trace the parents or the family members of the parents. Have you been able to do that, and how did that help?
Yes, we are still looking for them, because in cases like this, we need to know the history of suspects and then victims, so to help us facilitate our investigation. So I will use your platform to appeal to the general public, whoever have information on the suspect, that is the mother and the father, as to who is a relative, to report to the Divisional DOVSU Command, ASP Christiana Ahuzu Soprano, to help us with investigation.
What reason did the parents give for doing this?
Their reason was that they don't want the children to mingle with other children outside. That will influence their thinking for them to go wayward, and therefore they think they should keep them indoors to bring them up.
Right. Thank you very much, ASP. We will get back to you as and when necessary for more updates. Thank you very much for your time. We've been speaking to ASP Irene Opon. She is with DOVSU, and she's been giving us an update on the 3 children who were kept indoors by their parents for 8 good years. I move on with some other stories, and then you're watching the Midday brief, and move on to some other stories where Beatrice Zaidu has been speaking with the mother of the 3 children on why they kept the children indoors for 8 good years, and she has been given some responses. Let's take a listen. Right, we apologize for that terrible soundbite. We move on to some other stories. And the parties involved in the ongoing election petition case will be presenting their written addresses to the Supreme Court tomorrow, preceded by further examination. And then there will be further examinations of arguments made before the court throughout the entire hearing process to inform the final judgment by the 9 justices of the Supreme Court sitting on the landmark case in Ghana's history. Now, prior to that, we want to get some education on what the process entails, its meaning, and what to expect of the Supreme Court tomorrow when the petitioners and respondents to the election petition case appear in court. And pretty shortly, we'll bring you a very brief interview on that. In the meantime, the Media Foundation for West Africa, a regional independent non-profit, non-governmental organization, will from August 1, 2013 carry out daily monitoring of expressions used on key programs on 26 radio stations across the country. The exercise will span the next 3 months from August 1 to October 31. In a press statement issued July 26, the MFWA said the exercise, which is aimed at enhancing professionalism and reducing incidents of hate speech and pro-violence expressions in the media, is in response to the need for the media to contribute to mitigating violence during and after the adjudication of the 2012 election petition by the Supreme Court. According to the foundation, the legal dispute over the 2012 presidential results at the Supreme Court, coupled with the inflammatory comments by political activists, mainly from the ruling NDC and the opposition NPP, have heightened fears and anxieties about the potential violence after the court's judgment. The project will involve daily monitoring of expressions used by politicians and activists in discussing and commenting on the proceedings and ruling of the Supreme Court. Right, and so we quickly move on to some other stories where four institutions including the Ghana Police Service, are appearing before the Judgment Debt Commission today, July 29, and tomorrow, July 30. The rest are the Attorney General and Ministry of Justice, the Ministry of Finance and Economic Planning, and the Customs Excise and Preventive Service of the Ghana Revenue Authority. A statement signed by George William Dove, Public Relations Officer of the Commission, said the representatives of each commission had been invited to appear before the Commission to assist in its work. However, they are also informed that they are at liberty to appear with their lawyers. The Commission requests that members of the public who wish to testify or volunteer information should report at the Commission's office to give their statements. The Commission will then schedule a date for them to give evidence. It said all those who intended to testify or volunteer information to the Commission but were unable to be there in person were requested to submit a memoranda to the Commission, which would be treated confidentially. At the service, President John Dramani Mahama apologized to Madam Theodosia Okon for the decision by the Accra Metropolitan Assembly to rename the Theodosia Okon National Hockey Pitch after the late President John Evans Atta Mills, and it was at a Thanksgiving ceremony for the late president.
President Mahama described the attempt by Accra Mayor Dr. Alfred Oko van der Poy to rename the pitch after Professor Mills as a sad mistake. At the Thanksgiving service held at the Robert Mensah Sports Stadium in Cape Coast, President Mahama said Professor Mills would not have accepted it if he were alive.
The decision by whoever to rename the National Hockey Pitch after Prof was a most sad mistake. Let me take this opportunity as President of the Republic of Ghana to express our regrets as a nation to our grandmother, Mrs. Theodosia Oko, also a very selfless citizen of this land, for any emotional trauma she might have suffered as a result of the mistake of the renaming of the National Hockey Pitch. I wish to emphasize that the National Hockey Pitch shall continue to be called the Theodosia Oko National Hockey Pitch.
Dr. van der Poy's decision to rename the pitch was met with heavy criticism. The presidency earlier in the week directed the mayor to reverse the decision and further summoned him to the Flagstaff House.
Let us be guided by this incident. Prof goes to join a long list of heroes and heroines who have given their lives in service to their nation. Some have been recognized. Unfortunately, others have not yet been recognized. All of them deserve honor. Let us therefore exercise an extensive sense of consultation in our effort to find appropriate means to honor these heroines and heroes of our country.
91-year-old Madame Theodosia Okun, the designer of the Ghana flag, had earlier expressed her gratitude to the presidency for maintaining her name on the national hockey pitch.
Right, and the president's apology and rhetoric, well, we heard from the president, and we want to really understand this matter as to how the AMA could name a state edifice that essentially was not under his jurisdiction to do. And joining me in the studio is Chief Executive Officer of the Consumer Protection Agency, Kofi Capito. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, my dear lady.
Right, and so we've heard from the president. He's apologized for the name change. And for many, Van der Poel should be the one doing the apology, but we haven't heard from him. Does it really matter who has apologized and...
You know, now that the president has actually apologized, I guess I would say there's no need for Mr. Van der Poel to apologize. Rather, Mr. Van der Poel should actually resign from the post, because you don't, I mean, he should have been the first person to render any apology the moment the brouhaha, you know, broke. But for the president to go to the church service of the late president to also apologize, which I think it is very, very right that the president sees as the son of the land, who one day would also like to be acknowledged as Mrs. Okun was acknowledged by being named after the hockey pitch. Unfortunately, to me, I've asked for the resignation of the mayor a long time ago. He's had a lot of, you know, things that does not become of a mayor. Okay. And I don't even know why, after the president making that statement that certain people who acted, he said, well, he acted out of, is it a zealous or something like that. The president, the mayor actually should resign. The president does not have to sack the mayor. The mayor should resign gracefully. Look, with all due respect, a few weeks ago, what were we hearing? I had opportunity to meet the assembly members who were so upset about not voting for the mayor. Okay, I even have a document that they presented to me, or they gave to me, showing some illegal dealings at the assembly, only for us to find out that he has been appointed. Okay, but the question is, when is Ghana going to do the right thing? Where somebody should say, look, I goofed, I'm human, I am sorry, I'm stepping down. The mayor doesn't have to force the hand of the president to fire him. To me, it is very, very wrong. He, the mayor, should realize that what he did, I'm sure even his own children will not appreciate the mayor's behavior when it comes to this hockey pitch incident.
Right, but one will also say that, well, it was just a mistake. We all make mistakes. And in any case, when he changed the name from the Ohene Stadium to Accra Sports Stadium, nothing was done about it, which we have come to understand that, in fact, it's not under his jurisdiction to have done that. And so calling for his head, one would say it's a bit rush of a rash decision, wouldn't you say?
That's the more reason why he should be fired. Based on what you just said. If the man had the audacity to go and change Ohene Sports Stadium, okay, which was not under his jurisdiction, because nobody did anything or said anything. That's why he felt, or he felt he had the power and the authority to go and do to the hockey sport. Look, you know Awodomi Cemetery here in Accra, okay?
Yeah.
There's a land behind Awodomi Cemetery. I got to find out that the AMA, headed by the mayor, has actually assigned it to a private developer, okay? When I did my investigation, the land belongs to the Lands Commission. It doesn't even fall under the jurisdiction of the AMA. But the mayor and his assemblymen gave the land. I have written to the Lands Commission. The mayor has done too many or so many mistakes that he doesn't deserve to be the mayor.
If he's done so many mistakes as you have recounted, why is he still in office?
Well, I am not the president who appointed him. So we should ask the president. Like I said, I'm happy that the president has apologized. I'm only wishing that he will not force people like me to always ask the president to have him fired. He himself, the mayor. Okay, you know what is interesting about this mayor? And that's why I don't even get about the mayor. Do you know the mayor spent a lot of years in America?
Yes.
Okay, so did I. And he know and I know that any of this behavior where he spent most of his or half of his adult life, if any mayor was to do that, the mayor will resign. So I don't understand why he wants to twist the hand of the president or to take voices like me and other people who, and look, do you know, I am even glad that we have women like Messi Theodosius Oko, right? Look, do we even celebrate our women? If you ask in Ghana, apart from Yasantua, which other woman are we celebrating? So if you have such a lady like her, who with her own personal, it wasn't even paid by government, has gone out of her way to do all these things, to me, we should actually cherish people like that. That is why Ghana people would tell you, oh, why are you worrying yourself? Is government your father? Because they don't see the need for you to sacrifice. Because if you sacrifice and you have people like Mayor Kovandapoi, who himself has not even sacrificed, what he was appointed the mayor, all of a sudden he's the mayor.
And so he's done nothing.
No, I don't know. That is what I'm saying, that to me, as a resident of Accra, that is when I had an issue on your Joy News that to me, a mayor of Accra or a mayor of every town should be seen working. Okay, he's been given everything that he needs. Land cruiser, motorcade, free house, free this, free that. But meanwhile, my trash is not paid. Gutters are not constructed. Road signs are not available in Accra. So how is the police going to even arrest me if I jump the light?
Right.
All these things has contributed to the inefficiencies of the mayor.
But Kofi, in relation to the name change, you can agree with me that not many of these regulations or laws, as far as naming state properties, as known as you would want them to be. I mean, but for this name change, we wouldn't have known that, in fact, that the changing of names needed to lie under certain jurisdiction, and so you wouldn't want to blame him too much.
Let me tell you what,
having gone that.
If you go to Kumasi right now,
right,
my uncle, he was the only WO during the British Army when they were in Ghana. At Edum, there's a plaque, there's a monument opposite Poku Trading across the street from the Electricity Company of Ghana. My uncle's name is on it. Do you know how long that placard has been there?
Tell me about it.
It's a long time. Okay, this is a guy who served Mother Ghana as a military man. His name is Osei Bedu. His name is still there. I feel proud as a nephew of his, so
right,
that I can also,
do something.
Brag that at least my uncle did it, so I can also do it. But
right,
if you're going to have people like Mrs. Oko to contribute in their own way, and people like the mayor, who to me, I don't know. If he has done something, somebody should tell me. Millennium City, does Accra look like a Millennium City to you? I don't think so. The mayor himself should find it in his own right, as somebody who has lived outside, who understands responsibility. And then when you goofed, you don't blame anybody. You don't make excuses. You step down as the responsible thing to do. Like I said, I am glad that the president has apologized. It should, actually, the president, after making the statement that he made, the next thing we should know, because if the mayor is not going, he should fire him.
All right. Thank you very much for your time on the Midday Brief. We've been talking to Kofi Kapito, who once again is calling for the resignation of Alfred Oko-Vanderpoel, the AMA boss, also mayor of Accra. But we quickly move on with some other stories. And the head of social, political and historical studies of the University of Development Studies, Dr. John Gasu, has stated that so-called hawks in the NDC sought election victory in 2008 was payback time for the NPP, but when Mills didn't go that way, he became the quote enemy within, he became the enemy within the party. Upper West Regional Correspondent Rafiq Salam Mumuni sat through his lecture.
The anniversary lecture was held on the theme, Leadership Style of Professor Mills, from his academic to political life. The head of Department of Social, Political and Historical Studies at the WA campus of the University for Development Studies, Dr. John Gasu, said Professor Mills's extreme tolerance to political divergence was not well understood by his opponents.
No sooner than he had assumed power than he began receiving various forms of contradictory oppositionist demands on him. Normally, opposition positions are defined by ideological differences to the party in power, but in Ghana, the ideological differences between the parties are clear.
The lecturer added that the Fourth Republic has been characterized by tit-for-tat logic, where the ruling party is always vindictive towards the opposition.
The victory of Professor Mills was the payback time for the NPP, and when the posture of Professor Mills did not point to that direction, he, the president, rather became the enemy within. No space was left by the hawkish NDC party apparatus for President Mills to operate, as he was definitively humiliated and placed under siege for his failure to pursue a path of vengeance.
That notwithstanding, he posited that Professor Mills brought an attribute of stoic endurance to insults and rather focused on national reconciliation and development. A member of the Council of State, Guli Na Seidu Brahma, chaired the function. Rafiq Salam's reports from WA.
Those of us who were in the past, that is the 80s,
The week-long celebrations in memory of the late President John Evans Atta Mills has been climaxed with a Thanksgiving service where President John Dramani Mahama appealed for peace to reign after the Supreme Court's verdict on the election petition case.
High-profile government personalities and dignitaries joined Dr. Ernestina Nadu Mills and the Mills family for the Thanksgiving service held at the Robert Mensah Sports Stadium in Cape Coast. Choirs from 7 churches as well as the Ghana Police Band performed uplifting tunes, and prayers were also said for the nation. Presiding Bishop of the Methodist Church Ghana, Most Reverend Emmanuel Asante, in his sermon, asked Ghanaians to exemplify the leadership qualities of the late president.
Beloved, it is important for us to understand that the story of our late president comes to us as a lesson of a life of service and sacrifice in action. The life he lived must serve as a challenge to us to spend and be spent for the good of our nation and of humanity in general. To lose for others to gain, to serve but not to seek to be served, and die for others to live.
To honor the late professor, President Mahama also asked that the final decision of the Supreme Court should not be a reason for bloodshed.
Prof famously said in 2008 that no amount of political power is worth the shedding of even a drop of blood of any Ghanaian. And that is why peace must continue to reign in our country, no matter the outcome of the verdict of the Supreme Court. Ghana is greater than all of us. We are all passing through. We will play our parts and will continue on life's journey. And Ghana will continue to exist long after we are all gone.
Proceeds from the service will go to the Cape Coast School for the Deaf.
Public Relations Officer of the South Municipal Assembly, Charles Tay, has been speaking on Joy News AM show this morning on the fate of the displaced residents of Obom Kojunto who were later relocated by government to a temporary structure awaiting its resettlement arrangement following a Joy News report on their plight after their homes were destroyed by a private developer. Let's have a look at this.
This is a very unfortunate situation. Now, as I speak to you now, the Assembly has written to all the Assembly members to treat them with information based on people who are settled in places of such nature, so that the necessary step will be taken to invite them, have a discussion with them, and how to prevent subsequent occurring. Because I personally have also got indications from some of my people on similar issues occurring, and we are undertaking process of acquiring permanent land place for them to settle there finally. So I think we are doing all the best that we can do as an assembly.
You're watching the Midday Brief. When I return, we'll do some more stories. You're welcome back. And a refuse dump sited beside classrooms of the Mataheko cluster of schools is threatening the health of pupils. The pungent smell from refuse, especially after the rains, distract classes, but authorities say attempts to get the dump relocated has proven futile. Abigail Adumanko Echi has more.
Now, this is where residents here dump their refuse, very close to the Mataheko cluster of schools with about 2,000 pupils, threatening their health. Now, what is more worrying is that this wall here that serves as a boundary to the school is very weak. The AMA has directed that it be pulled down, but that is yet to be done.
The dump site is a playground for pupils despite the health dangers. A wall to separate the school from the dump site is broken down and pupils walk through the garbage as a shortcut to the community. The stench is a bane to pupils and residents who say they have no option but to use the dump. They, however, want it relocated.
When they are learning, they can't even learn. When they are buying food, you see, food hazards and other things can happen to them, causing food poisoning and other things. So I think the authorities concerned should do something about it. The sooner, the better.
Baby, I seen Midday. I had your officer school to me born school for no. No one son, they be a school for me to do a castle, one sent to me call. To me, go school, one had it.
Authorities of the Mataheko cluster of schools who refused to speak on camera said attempts to get the refuse dump relocated have not yielded results. Another worrying situation is the lack of a place of convenience in the school.
The only place of convenience in the school was pulled down some weeks ago. Currently, a new construction for a washroom is underway. But the question is that till this place is fully completed, where would pupils here ease themselves?
Left with no choice, pupils ease themselves anywhere on the school compound. Authorities said off camera that several projects are ongoing to alleviate the situation and will be completed soon. For now, pupils can only hope the refuse dump will be relocated while the new washroom under construction is completed before they return from the long vacation. Abigail Admakwenchi reporting for Joy News.
Staying on education, pupils of Subinso No. 1 LA Primary School in the Wenchi municipality of the Bunahafo region are appealing to the government to provide them with classrooms to aid effective teaching and learning. They say learning on the trees is uncomfortable considering the various distractions when lessons are in progress. Nesta Kafuya Joma Faustus report after visiting the school.
This is the situation at the Subinso No. 1 LA Primary School. Due to inadequate classrooms, most of the classes are held under trees. Unfortunately, the worst affected is the preschool department. Kindergarten 1 and 2 as well as primary 1 pupils hold lessons under these mango trees. The pupils say studying under these trees is very stressful because of the distractions that come with passing animals and vehicles, plus the fact that classes have to be suspended anytime the clouds form. On this day of our visit, the clouds have started forming, so the pupils are preparing to go home. This they consider a great setback to their education. A pupil, Abu Adams, appealed to authorities to assist the school with more classrooms, potable drinking water, as well as introduce the school feeding program.
School feeding program.
We were told Marcus, a German Peace Corps, in the late 1990s, built what has become this dilapidated 3-unit classroom block. According to sources, this classroom block that accommodated the preschool had its roof ripped off in year 2000, but the community mobilized to re-roof it. However, the roof was ripped off the second time, but the community members say they are unable to re-roof this time. The Krontehini of the Mo Traditional Council, Nana Bediaku, is the assistant head teacher of the school.
We consulted the district assembly several times. Upon all our appeal, there's nothing coming from them. So we are now appealing to the central government to assist us and to innovate it for the community.
Another serious challenge facing the school is the lack of sanitation facility, forcing the pupils to use this bush for that purpose. Construction of this 6-unit classroom block, according to the teachers, started about 3 years ago and is yet to be completed. The assembly member for the area, Cosmos Adobason, who doubles as a teacher in the school, tells Joy News efforts being made to remedy the situation.
We have started putting up a 6-unit classroom block for the community. It has reached the roofing stage, and we are praying and hoping that very soon they will complete the project, and then the children will move from the trees and then get into the classrooms to get a very conducive environment for teaching and learning to take place.
Nesta Kafuya Jomes report for Joy News.
Similarly, in the Volta region, specifically the Hokpoji EPJSS B school is in dire need of proper infrastructure given the deplorable nature of school buildings.
The Hokpoji EPJSS-B, located in the Volta regional capital, was established by the EP Church in 1932. This school was one of the first in this community. It is known as a school that performs miracles, producing people of higher academic and moral standards, some of whom are renowned men of God in the EP Church. But the irony of the situation is the school needs a miracle. It looks as though it is on the verge of collapse. Walls with deep cracks, ripped-off roofing sheets, and a condemned ceiling all spell disaster, so much so that academic work in this building has halted. Headmaster of the school, Sefiamo Bekoin, says several appeals to government and stakeholders have not materialized.
Though we have written a formal letter through the director, through the municipal assembly to get funds for assistance, we hope this will be speed up so that a good environment or enable environment is given us for conducive teaching and conducive learning and teaching activities to be carried out for the benefit of the peoples and the country as a whole.
Pupils say they are praying that government and philanthropists take the opportunity of this vacation to work a miracle on the infrastructure of this 80-year-old school.
the structure is not good, so we want the government to help us build a new block so that we can continue with our studies, so that we can learn.
As you can see, the building is collapsing. In one time, it can collapse when we're at school or maybe we'll be in a vacation. When we come back, we don't have any place to learn again. When it's rain, we find it difficult to learn. So sometimes the teachers dismiss us to go home before raining.
The Hokpoji EPJSSB is obviously in crisis. Authorities must intervene quickly before the unthinkable happens. From Ho, Komlado's report for Joy News.
Meanwhile, some classrooms of the Tanokrom MA Junior High School in the newly created Efia constituency of the Western region have been turned into a brothel and a hub for weed smoking. This worrying discovery was made by the Western regional correspondent William Benjamin Peters.
It was a sorry sight to behold during the news team's visit to the school. The nature of the school's structures and the ordeal that these future leaders go through in order to have access to education was worrying. The Tanokrom MA Junior High School, which was constructed about 60 years ago, is yet to see any major rehabilitation. The two-story structure with 16 classrooms now have 4 out of the 16 completely abandoned because it is no longer safe for pupils to study in it. Some of the classrooms require replacement of doors, windows, locks, and even total re-roofing. At best, the school needs total refurbishment. Adding to the woes of these pupils is the fact that their school has been completely invaded by weed smokers who have converted the JHS 2A classroom into a living quarters, packed with personal belongings such as bags, mattresses, mosquito nets, among others. Empty packets of cigarettes and smoked pieces of the remnants of wrapped paper for Indian hemp were found scattered all over. The invaders, according to information gathered by Joy News, sometimes defecate and urinate in the classrooms, and the pupils have to spend part of their study hours to clear the mess. Used condoms are seen on a daily basis, and the volumes leave no doubt that the classrooms have been turned into brothels by these miscreants. Samuel Kwesi Anderson is assemblyman for the area.
See the children, when they come to school, see how they are roaming about, nowhere to stay. This almost 4 classrooms has been abandoned. Are you going to continue? If you don't take care, next year by this time, 10 classrooms will be abandoned. Where are our children going to learn? So the only thing is to solve the problem immediately.
A pupil of the school, Mohammed Abdul Hadi, also shared the same sentiments.
No teacher no poch ada was no insuloto. Today I want not 3 C no ade worship 3A and 3B. What you may be. Until what you may be and send or coach you on BC. Until they mank some locale. Until they no use on use your use ade.
With particular emphasis on the weed smokers whose activities, he said, is negatively affecting academic work and the safety of the pupils.
Away from education, residents of Takwa have appealed to the government through the Municipal Assembly to fix bad roads to the town, which they say is having an adverse effect on their daily activities.
One can call it potholes, but to residents of Takwa, they are manholes which have taken over the township roads. They say it is having a serious effect on residents, especially drivers, who ply these roads. Several calls to have the roads reconstructed have fallen on deaf ears. Drivers have held several demonstrations to no avail. Some of these drivers have taken undue advantage of the situation to charge exorbitant fares even at shorter distances. Joy News sampled the views of some taxi drivers and residents on the nature of these roads.
Kwani nyakura nani 3 days ana mehunze media mafo no call radio station omo report ma radio for no say amansan si omo ntu ani omo van hwetakwa de we kwani city tie no Sunday nso no omo timi ya kakra ye ni ahwa ye hunze zi etimi nante so kakra na first in the nyakura
Takwa kwan there very bad. It's about my punches. And I time be makana.
Time now for some foreign news. And across the continent, supporters of the ousted Egyptian President Mohamed Morsi have continued their defiance of the military-backed government, marching on 3 key points in Cairo. Ghana's planned friendly match against Iran next month has been cancelled by the Asians due to a lack of funds. The decision has left the Ghana FA working to find a new opponent for next month's FIFA International Free date. The Black Stars were scheduled to take on Iran in the international friendly in Portugal in mid-August, but the Irans pulled the plug on the match in the last minute, claiming their FA is unable to fund the match. Iran planned to hold a training camp in Lisbon, Portugal, and take on the Black Stars during the camp, but surprised the Ghanaian counterpart by pulling out. Iran coach Carlos Queiroz says the decision to pull out of the friendly against Ghana will affect the team's preparations for future assignments. Ghana must now find an opponent for next month's FIFA friendly date to prepare for the World Cup qualifier against Zambia. The country also tasted a second straight defeat at the hands of Korea in the ongoing Hockey Junior Women's World Cup on Sunday. The Black Sticks, who are making their maiden appearance at a World Cup since its inception in 1989, were thrashed 9-0 by the two-time champions, who were making their 7th appearance at the competition. Although they played a much improved game over their first, the Black Sticks gave themselves away and ended up conceding 13 penalty corners, out of which 6 were converted. The Koreans scored 2 goals from open play, while Ghana's goalkeeper Joanna Ejay scored an own goal. This brings Ghana's total goal haul to 19 from 2 games. Head coach of the junior female Black Sticks at Edmondo Damte plays the 2 straight defeats on the lack of motivation, exposure, inexperience, and questionable officiating. Ghana's next and last pool group game is against the USA, who lost 5-1 to the Netherlands in the other Pool A game of Day 2. That's it for sports, brought to you by Tigo. In showbiz, Kora Award winner King Ayisoba has threatened organizers of the Ghana Music Awards to put a stop to the event, or he will take them on. Well, that'll be all for today. Before we go, a quick recap of our headlines. And Dovsu takes parents of 3 children kept indoors for 8 years to a psychologist for checkup. Parties in the ongoing election petition hearing to file their written addresses before the Supreme Court tomorrow. 4 institutions, including the police service, will appear before the Judgment Debt Commission between today and tomorrow. And then also we brought you the deplorable state of infrastructure in our educational sector. Well, thank you for your company. My name is Kemini Nyamani Amano. Stay on for the rest of our programs, or better still visit myjoyonline.com for some more news. Goodbye.